Hello, I'm TMN, and welcome to this week's movie review. Well, we finally come to the conclusion of the Dark Knight trilogy, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited to see how Batman's doing. Batman? Yes, because I'm sure nothing interesting happened in those past 8 years. That's right, people. Bruce Wayne has been absent as Batman for 8 years. I mean, talk about a guy who could use a serious tonic. But for the most part, Gotham has been doing pretty well without him. Funny how the absence of superheroes always seems to make things better. Maybe those pesky police officers who are always trying to stop you from interfering with their business are onto something. But eventually a new nemesis comes along which even the police cannot take alone. So Batman goes in to take him alone. A question for you, Batman.
Yeah?
I seem to remember that in the comics, Bane was able to break your back so easily after forcing you to fight a whole bunch of other villains and therefore tiring you out. Why exactly were you able to be so easily beaten in this one?
Lazy writing?
Indeed. I'm not gonna lie, the Batbreaker scene is always something I've wanted to see portrayed on the big screen, and when that happened I probably had the dumbest smile on my face, but oh man was it awesome. But I'm getting ahead of things.
You made a serious mistake.
Not as serious as yours, I fear.
For starters, this movie could have turned out completely different. The original plan for this movie was actually to be sort of a courtroom drama where Harvey Dent would still be alive and he'd be basically prosecuting against the Joker, if my memory serves me correctly. But obviously, with the unfortunate death of Heath Ledger, Christopher Nolan had to change the plot up a bit. And what we ended up with was more or less a repeat of the first film. Some member of the League of Shadows comes along to destroy Gotham, only in this film's case, the nemesis is Bane, and his method of destroying Gotham is use a huge bomb. So as far as we as the audience know, the Joker is probably just locked away in some high-security insane asylum. But I don't know, I always like to think he just ended up on Dexter Morgan's table. But no, Bane comes along, portrayed by Tom Hardy, and considering that the only other version of Bane that we've ever seen on film is... yeah, in comparison, this Bane's pretty awesome. Does his performance one-up Heath Ledger's or anything? I mean, no, but I still enjoy him. There's definitely this aura that surrounds his character, so where whenever he appears on screen, you always kind of feel threatened by him. And considering that a lot of his performance is just based on his eye acting, it's pretty good. The film also introduces us to a few new characters, namely Selina Kyle, or Catwoman, portrayed by Anne Hathaway, and also a cop portrayed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I forgot his name. But I think the crowning turd on top is Christian Bale himself, playing the titular Dark Knight. Oh, not that his acting is bad, it's good, but Batman's voice in this one... You know, I gave Dark Knight a pass, but oh man, this one's bad. By the way, how do you think that conversation with the director went? Alright, Mr. Nolan, I've been thinking since my voice is getting more deeper and deeper with every Batman movie, that this one should just be like, straight up growling, like you can't even understand what I'm saying. You hear me? Yes, that sounds very interesting, Mr. Bale. Why don't you go ahead and do that? Just give me like a quick demonstration. Marvelous. I couldn't even understand a bloody thing you were saying. Excellent. Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, people give Bane a hard time for not being able to understand him, but in comparison to this
This is Nico.
and then this,
Mr. Wayne.
I'm going with this one. But non-audible voice acting aside, how does the rest of the movie do? Well, considering what this movie could have been, I still like this movie very much. For me, it's definitely the second best in the Dark Knight trilogy. Some people might have a problem with it because Batman doesn't really show up until about an hour into the movie, and then he doesn't show up again for like the rest of the movie. But that's actually one of the reasons why I like the movie, because if you can make a roughly 3-hour movie and have only 30 minutes or so with Batman in it and still make it a good movie, I'm impressed. Much of the movie takes place in the pit, which is where Bane throws Batman's body after so easily defeating him in their sewer battle. And during his imprisonment, Bruce Wayne struggles to regain the strength to escape and return to Gotham to defeat Bane once and for all. I suppose as far as saving the big epic conclusion for last, this film doesn't really do that, and for some audiences members that might be a really horrible thing. How dare they? But me, I don't really mind so much. The Dark Knight trilogy never really was just about having mindless action scenes though. I view the trilogy, and especially the third one, as more of a character study, following the arc of Bruce Wayne over the years as he copes with the role of being Batman. And in this one especially, he's at an all-time low considering his fall from grace in the last movie and his predicament in this one. And as much as his defeat by Bane might have been a little too easy, I'm not gonna lie, whenever I watch the sewer fight, I get goosebumps. Whenever you're watching this film, especially in a theater, the tension is so strong during this scene that you could seriously hear a pin drop. And if I had nothing else good to say about this film, I'd give high props to the sewer fight scene. And as far as the score is concerned, it holds up just about as well as the other two. The only difference with this score is that it's only Hans Zimmer, no James Newton Howard collaboration. Which for me is a bit of a bummer because that means we don't get any soft melodic pieces to go in. It's sort of just all drums and all Inception bongs and stuff, but it's still pretty good. But apart from Bane's theme, which is my favorite track from the movie, nothing really stands out as being quite as memorable in this soundtrack. I actually really loved the soundtrack when it first came out, but over the years I don't really like it as much. And I feel kind of the same way about the movie in general. This is the only Dark Knight movie that I actually saw in theaters, and I actually saw it twice, once with my mom and once with my brother. And both times I enjoyed it very much. But over the years, as I have noticed its flaws and whatnot, I definitely don't like it as much. But that's putting it pretty lightly, because I still love this film. All things considered, with what Christopher Nolan had to work with, I still think it turned out a pretty good film. And I was very satisfied with the way things concluded. Now, of course, considering that The Dark Knight pretty much takes place right after Batman Begins, and then The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years later, that pretty much means that Christian Bale's Batman probably had the shortest run as the character. And people say this guy's better than Superman? Whatever. But aside from having a pretty cut-and-paste storyline, a mopey main lead, indecent voice acting, and a fair score, I do still enjoy this movie. Because what it does have are fantastic performances, amazing practical effects and stunt work, which I know I didn't really talk about that much in the past two Dark Knight reviews, but before I end the trilogy, quick side note. One of the things that I love about Christopher Nolan as a director is his use of practical effects. I mean, obviously, if you have to use CGI, go ahead. But some of the things he accomplishes in this film, especially the opening sequence, is so amazing you almost don't believe it. Right up there with the truck flip scene from The Dark Knight, the opening sequence of The Dark Knight Rises is definitely one of the most amazing practical effects that I've seen in a Christopher Nolan film. But yeah, acting, practical effects, pretty much any scene that takes place in the pit. And of course, who could forget the sewer fight scene? And I will say, one of the main things I probably love about this movie is, out of the entire trilogy, I think it has the most stand-up and cheer moments, or really any moments that make you feel giddy with excitement. But yeah, altogether, I'd rate this film, except that, is slightly higher than Batman Begins, if I were to slap an actual rating on it. So, there we go. Well guys, that's about it for this week's review. But before I wrap things up, I have a very special announcement. Beginning next week, for every weekday, I will be reviewing a movie. Because, much as you might try to deny it, as an audience member myself, I know that you probably get annoyed whenever you have to wait an entire week for a video that might just end up being mediocre. And also, considering how many movies I have to review, if I only do one review a week, that's just going to be really long. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm making everybody happy. Will it be a lot more work for me? Yes. But do I love you, the audience, enough to do it? Yeah. So that concludes this review. Be sure to leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on the film. Don't forget to like this video, share with your friends and family, click that little bell icon to be notified whenever I post, and most importantly, subscribe. I'm TMN, and until next time.